Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Cornish and I own my Hens photography. Some of you know who I am. I make actions and other resources for photographers. I've been getting a lot of questions lately on how I process people with darker eyes, and I wanted to say, first off, the best way to do anything as far as catch lights is to make sure that you have good lighting, because good lighting will give you, quite a boost. One trick that I do when I'm shooting, and I don't do it all the time, but is if you were to walk a complete circle around your subject and you kind of look at their eyes and you look at their face and you watch how the shadows and the lights fall on the face as you're circling around them, it'll give you an idea of what your lighting situation is. And I tend to actually shoot a lot of full sun, but I'm a huge fan of backlighting, and I realize that sometimes you don't necessarily have the opportunity without a reflector or another tool such as that to get that same light. So there are some little things that you can do, but I want to say first off that it's very important that you do try to get as much in camera as you can. So the photo that I'm starting with today is actually very cool. It's a bit underexposed. It was a recent session and the lighting was a little funky, and we ended up taking it behind, it was on their property and they had this awesome little shed. So we went behind the shed, and a lot of my actions I actually start off, the photos are a bit on the underexposed side. So for that reason I do provide a lighten layer, and the lighten layer is totally optional. Usually my actions have a ton of adjustment layers. I've been making them more like that more recently. The older ones don't so much because I've been making them for almost a couple years now, and there wasn't necessarily the same trend to do all the adjustment layers back when I first started, or I wasn't aware anyway. So, now be on the lookout, because most of my actions will have a ton of adjustment layers. And I'm even thinking of starting to go back through the old ones and add more adjustment layers for you guys. So, anyhow, the action set I'm going to feature today, it's from a new set that I just released. It's called Vintage Holiday. And it's fabulous because it gives you sort of those muted, nice vintagey tones that a lot of my work is known for. Ironically, the action I'm going to choose for this picture is a little more vibrant, but I wanted to choose an action with a lot of warmth in it since her skin is very cool. So I chose Little Candle, and I did web resize this before starting so that this will run a little faster for you guys. But if you were to run Little Candle, already you're going to see a fairly dramatic difference. She's very warm, the exposure's nice, it bumped it up a lot. And if you were to go through these layers and open and play with them, you would see that they'll have their own purpose. And what I do encourage, aside from obviously turning off and on the layers and even changing the layer opacities, is if you actually go into some of these layers and you double click them, you can actually tweak them right from there too. So if you don't necessarily like that, or it's totally up to you. So, and this dark contrast layer is one of my favorites, and sometimes I even just duplicate that because it adds a nice pop to the skin tone. So we're already almost done. This is going to be a really quick edit. From here, what I would do is if I were editing like this for a session or whatever, I would go to soft pop. It's one of my favorite actions, and it also adds a little contrast. This is an older action. It doesn't have as much adjustability to it, so if you wanted to, very easy. At the very bottom here next to the FX, there's like a little camera. That's what it looks like to me anyway. It's like a box with a circle. If you were to click that, it's going to create a layer mask. By creating this layer mask, you now have the option to brush whatever's behind this photo back in, as far as detail goes. So you want to choose a brush, and you want to make sure you're set on black, and you want to make sure that your white box is selected. And if you brush over, it's very subtle, but you'll kind of pull through whatever was underneath there. And it's great, if you have like a bold color clothing, and sometimes those color channels get blown very easily. So from here, another great trick, and this is one thing I do for the eyes, and I do this a lot actually. It's very subtle, and it doesn't give you any kind of like funky alien looking eyes. So what I'm going to do is, if you go into eyeballing it, you're going to get a prompt. It's going to tell you to select the eyes with the lasso tool and to copy them on their own layer. Now I use this lasso, and I usually do kind of a figure 8, so only her eyes are selected. And on my keyboard it's Control J. That's kind of a quick way to do it. So if you were to do that, and then you could do, finish the action, and it'll tell you exactly what you want. If you'll notice, it's on screen up here, and you can change this opacity to make the eyes more and more bold. And see what it did? It just kind of pronounces your catch lights. Now I would take a smaller brush. Now you want to make sure that this is brushed completely off of your skin. And I managed to get it off the eye too there, sorry. This is kind of a quick edit. But there you have it. Another thing that I don't do in my photos is an extensive amount of skin smoothing, just because I feel like kids for the most part have this beautiful, healthy, glowing skin, and I love all the detail, and I love that you can see her pretty freckles, and I wouldn't want to take away from that. So I make actions in case that's something that you like for your own photos, because of course to each their own, we have our own taste, but for myself I hardly ever use them. And then start contrast one more time. And there you go. Quick, easy edit. And if you want to see the before and after, that is the before, and that's your after. And another quick way to kind of check your before and after is if you go to your history tab and you click the very first image up top, it'll show you. See before and after. Pretty dramatic and fairly easy. So I hope this helped a little, and I hope you enjoyed it. You have a wonderful day, and be on the lookout for more tutorials like this. Thank you. Bye-bye.